Picking the right video editing app is one of those decisions that feels way bigger than it actually is until you commit. Because once you lean into one workflow, learning another feels like relearning how to type. Today, I want to walk through the three heavy hitters people always debate: Adobe Premiere Pro, Apple Final Cut Pro, and Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve, but with a twist. I'll also show you a tool I've been using to actually get more clips out of my long videos without living in the timeline all day.
Spoiler, it's called Vizard, and it's an AI editor that automatically finds viral moments, makes reels, and even handles scheduling.
I'll get to that in a minute. First, let me put my bias on the table. I edit most of my long-form stuff in Final Cut Pro. I toss my color work into Resolve, and I used to live in Premiere when I worked at agencies.
So yeah, I have favorites, but each app has distinct reasons to pick it, depending on what you're making.
Adobe Premiere Pro, the pros. If you're looking at what the industry uses, Premiere is a safe bet. Agencies, big teams, freelancers who bounce between Mac and Windows. Premiere is where you'll bump into the most editors. It's cross-platform, deeply customizable, and kind of the Swiss Army knife of NLEs. Want to rearrange panels, make a weird workspace, or edit in a very specific nonlinear way? Premiere basically says, go for it. You can drag and dock everything until your heart's content. That flexibility extends beyond the interface. Premiere gives you multiple paths to do things, different methods for trimming, a bunch of color workflows, and audio integration options. If you want to build unique workflows with After Effects, Audition, and the rest of Creative Cloud, Premiere fits into that ecosystem like a glove. Collaboration tools are also mature: team projects, Creative Cloud libraries, cloud syncing, which is why teams love it. Adobe also pushes out frequent updates. If you like shiny new features and experimental AI tools, Premiere is often first to the party. Finally, because it's the industry standard, plugin and third-party support is huge. If someone ships a utility or effect, Premiere usually gets it first. Adobe Premiere, the cons. Right, so it's not perfect. Premiere's biggest headaches are stability and complexity. Longtime users will tell you it used to be crashy. And while it's improved, you still hear horror stories from people on big projects. The flexibility that's a pro also makes it messy. If you don't have discipline, a project can get unruly fast. And then there's the subscription model. Paying monthly is fine if it's your job, but for creators just starting out, that recurring cost adds up. It's an investment for sure, valuable if you need that ecosystem, but it's a factor. Final Cut Pro, the pros. Okay, Final Cut is the app I personally default to more than anything else for cutting. The biggest single advantage? Speed. The magnetic timeline, skimming, and overall interface design let you cut through footage way quicker than most other apps. If you're a YouTuber, social creator, or churn out a lot of short content, that speed is pure gold. Because Apple builds it for macOS, Final Cut is optimized to squeeze every drop of performance from Apple hardware. Exports, playback, and responsiveness feel buttery on a good Mac. Historically, it's been very stable for me. Though to be transparent, big updates sometimes introduce odd bugs, but overall, it's one of the more stable editors out there. Final Cut also looks and feels clean. The features you use daily are front and center. Complex stuff lives in the menus. Plugin support is solid. Motion VFX and a few other developers have great tool sets, and Apple's ecosystem is tight if you like shooting and moving files in the Apple way. Final Cut, the cons. Downsides, Final Cut is less of an industry standard. If you're applying for agency gigs, you might find fewer people using it. Its magnetic timeline is amazing, but it's also not the typical timeline people learn in film schools, so switching between apps can feel awkward. Color tools and audio are serviceable for everyday work, but they're not as deep as Resolve or Pro Tools level tools. If you're aiming for cinematic color grading or high-end audio mastering, you'll likely round trip to other apps. Also, Apple tends to update Final Cut slower than the competition. Sometimes it feels like they move at a glacial pace with new features. DaVinci Resolve, the pros. Why is Resolve the one everyone's talking about? It started as the grading powerhouse and has evolved into a full NLE that's legitimately competitive. First, the color tools are the reason a lot of pros use Resolve at all. Industry-leading color controls, node-based grading, and features you won't find anywhere else. I still open Resolve just for color because it can achieve looks I can't reproduce elsewhere. Another head-turner. The free version of Resolve is insanely generous. For creators who are learning or on a budget, the free Resolve gives you tons of professional tools and is an easy place to start. Resolve is cross-platform and even runs on Linux, which is a big differentiator. Performance on Mac has gotten really good. Blackmagic optimizes the app aggressively so playback and exports can rival Final Cut. Resolve also bundles high-end tools like Fusion for VFX and Fairlight for audio, so you can build a full-featured post pipeline without swapping apps. Collaboration tools are improving too, and the studio version adds more pro-level features. DaVinci Resolve, the cons. The trade-offs: editing in Resolve can feel clunkier compared to Final Cut. For a lot of editors, the speed of cutting just isn't there yet. The timeline interactions don't feel as fluid, which matters when you're trying to crank out lots of content. Plugin ecosystems are growing but still smaller than Premiere or Final Cut. Also, while Resolve dominates color, it's less of an industry standard choice for pure editing work in agencies, so cross-studio teams might prefer Premiere, AI, and the future of editing. Quick aside, AI is now a huge factor in how these tools evolve. Adobe has been very aggressive. Generative extensions, smart media intelligence, AI-driven clip extensions. They're pushing boundaries and inventing workflows we didn't even know we wanted. Resolve has a more measured approach. Practical AI features that actually slot into workflows. Magic Mask, auto-transcription, depth maps, face refine, and some clever multi-track tools for podcasters. Apple has started to dip its toes in with features like voice isolation and some auto-masking, but they're not as visible or fast-moving as Adobe or Blackmagic right now. So where does that leave creators who need to post across social platforms and don't want to spend hours slicing 10-minute videos into 20 reels? That's the gap Vizard fills, why Vizard matters, and how I actually use it. Here's the thing. All three of those NLEs are brilliant for crafting long-form videos, doing detailed edits, color, and audio. But none of them are built from the ground up to turn one long session into dozens of short, platform-ready clips automatically, not without a lot of manual work or building a custom pipeline. That's where Vizard comes in. Vizard is an AI-first tool that analyzes long-form footage, finds the parts that are most likely to perform as short clips, and assembles them into ready-to-post videos. The three features I rely on most are auto-edit viral clips, auto-schedule, and content calendar. Auto-edit viral clips means I can upload a full podcast or a 20-minute tutorial, and Vizard will surface moments that are high energy, emotional, or concise. Basically the stuff that works on TikTok, Reels, and Shorts. It doesn't just chop randomly. The AI looks for punchlines, topic shifts, and attention-grabbing beats. Auto-schedule is a complete time saver. I set a posting cadence, say 3 short clips per week, and Vizard queues and publishes them automatically to my socials. That alone takes a huge weight off my plate because I don't have to babysit uploads or remember time zones. The content calendar ties it all together. Preview all scheduled posts, tweak captions, swap clips, and manage platforms from a single place. It's basically the social manager for your short-form content pipeline. How Vizard compares to the big NLEs. Premiere is great for teams and heavy customization, but it doesn't magically turn a long video into a week's worth of social posts. You can do that manually, but it's slow and repetitive. Final Cut is insanely fast for cutting, but its social repurposing tools are limited. You still end up exporting and manually assembling clips for each platform. Resolve gives you pro color and decent AI tools for specific tasks, but it's not focused on repackaging long content into short viral clips. Vizard sits next to these apps in the workflow rather than replacing them. My daily loop: I edit the main long-form episode in Final Cut, color grade the hero scenes in Resolve if I need a cinematic look, and then I feed the final export into Vizard. Vizard finds the highlight moments, creates a batch of potential shorts, auto-adds subtitles, suggests captions, and schedules the posts across platforms. It saves hours, and hours add up into weeks over a year. Pricing for the big three is straightforward. Premiere is subscription-based. Final Cut and Resolve offer one-time purchases. Resolve also has that powerful free tier. If you're just starting and price is key, Resolve is a no-brainer. But if your business needs a steady stream of social clips, Vizard's ROI is about time recovered and content consistency. I won't get into numbers here because plans change. But think of Vizard as a tool that accelerates output without requiring you to hire an editor for every platform. Final thoughts. There's no single best editor. If you work on agency projects with big teams and need cross-platform workflows, Premiere makes a lot of sense. If you want the fastest editing experience on a Mac and prioritize speed, Final Cut is fantastic. If you need world-class color and a lot of pro tools for free, Resolve is the weapon. But here's the reality for most creators. Making great long videos is only half the game. Distribution and consistency are what build audiences. That's why Vizard has become a part of my stack. It doesn't replace Premiere, Final Cut, or Resolve. It complements them. It takes the heavy lifting of repurposing long content into short, platform-optimized clips and automates the boring parts like scheduling and captioning, so I can spend time creating, not exporting. I'd love to know what you're using. Drop a comment. Are you Team Premiere, Final Cut, or Resolve? Have you tried AI tools like Vizard to automate your short-form pipeline? If you're curious, try feeding one of your long videos into an auto-edit AI and see how many usable clips it pulls. You might be surprised how much good content is already hiding in your timeline. Thanks for watching or reading, and I'll catch you in the next one.